Smart 24, driving business.
Well, here we are for our last part of the discussion. I will definitely dive into, because we've literally have less than 15 minutes in our conversation here. I'll get back to Dr. Clark Chisembo to at least give us a brief breakdown of DALI International in relation to the 200 billion annual, the 200 billion US dollars annual pool that they have, which is available, of course, in relation to the private sector conversations we've been having earlier on in the show. Doctor, as we build up on the same, you've been ideally mentioning the fact that we do not have less projects in the country, but ideally DALI, which is having its headquarters in Uganda, has few participants from the country.
Yeah. So, you see, Uganda as a country, when you talk about foreign direct investment or domestic resource mobilization,
okay,
the one thing they're going to think about is somebody not in your color. You get what I mean?
A foreigner.
A foreigner. So DALI, which is known for consulting and project management, 8 years ago pivoted and went into seeking partnerships and collaborations as an investor by mandate. Now you no longer see I see delegations leaving Uganda, getting onto planes, going to Italy, going to Turkey, going to Norway, going to Netherlands, going to wherever. And in my mind, I'm like, how much are they going to mobilize in a country which country has already nominated a mandate holder? Who is in the country where they are living, take a flight? You get it? So you are an investor by mandate, let alone capital firms. Capital firms are about $30 million, you know, that range, maybe 50 million. We are talking about 200 billion US dollars annually. How do you get this money? An investor by mandate is one who is representing, by decision of 85%, an Asian bloc. China, Taiwan, Korea, talk about Singapore, all these countries. And they come into a bloc and say, DALI, you are a mandate investor. Tell us where to go, where there are projects, identify them, verify them, validate them, conduct a due diligence, bring for us complete projects for financing. We just need to look at 5% of them. And once you approve, it's done. And we go to the European Pension Fund. We have a mandate. We go to the Euro Exim Bank. We hold a mandate for Euro Exim in Africa, where there is Africa Exim, which has gone to, Africa Exim has gone to Caribbean. But already we're in Caribbean. And we are building a relationship now. Africa Exim comes back and says, wait a minute. Who are you guys everybody's talking about in Caribbean Pacific? And like, we are an entity based in Uganda. Now come back to Uganda. Uganda doesn't lack projects. It actually has projects. Go to NPA, their projects. Go to all these ministries, their projects. Stuck in there, very nice projects, ready to go. Where is the money? They go looking where the money is not. The money has already been distributed to mandate holders, who are not so many. Remember, there is a brokerage, there is a what do you call them? I remember I went to one of the government offices. They say, I don't know what even they termed us as, but I would just say that we are not a broker, we are not a capital firm, but we are an investor by mandate. What does that mean? The money is kept in China Bank, kept in Standard Bank Group, South Africa, Germany, UK, Citibank, wherever, because we don't allow it on our accounts. And we requisition that this year we are going to need about 200 billion US dollars. Normally that's the minimum cap, but it can increase. And then it's deployed in countries all across Africa. DALI is in 45 countries of Africa. Everywhere there's a project which has a tag of DALI. Last Wednesday, from the president of Ghana, I got the master plan of the petroleum industry of Ghana. Sent a master plan. This is the master plan, 60 billion. Dr. Clark, I need a solution. That's the president of where? Ghana, West Africa. You get it? I have never even seen a minister or even a PS say there is a Dr. Clark somewhere in our country whom we had their mandate holders of the large-scale entities. Right now, we are even mandate holders of the U.S.-Africa relations. Remember when the presidents went to all presidents went to the U.S.? Yeah? It was convened for U.S.-Africa trade and investment relations. Who was given the mandate? It was DALI. DALI is handling that. How many Ugandans know that?
Very few.
That DALI is handling that mandate across Africa, and Dr. Clark is heading it. Very few Ugandans. So that brings me to think that structure, systems, approach, process,
yes,
information and deployment.
Okay.
Ugandan private sector needs a change in the mind to understand that they are non-bank investment and financing entities. And it's a message which can go through my colleague, Francis, that even banks now, actually the projects I'm talking about, I think they are banks. Banks, commercial banks in Uganda have come to DALI to access money to lend out. You get it? So the other part is that the tendencies of bureaucracy. I lead the global operations of DALI, 101 countries. I don't have the luxury of time to come to meet a minister and you're going to take me through bureaucracies, no matter what protocols you have.
Okay.
But that's what exactly the president was saying, that he had a prime minister with an investor, and the prime minister, who is the late, rest in peace, asking to be written to. The president is like, he said it at Colonial Grounds recently, that in his mind we were thinking, this an investor who is equivalent to the whole of East Africa, and you're telling him to write you a letter, a prime minister of Uganda. So me, I say that information is key, but I think the private sector should dig deep. If they go into public-private partnerships, they should dig deep. Currently, I'm building the National Health Digital Program for Uganda, over $300 to $500 million. If you know the circles I've gone through, I'm like, people, I'm taking long in Uganda. I have other countries which need me. But bureaucracy
is too much in the country. All right, now, as we're summing up with our conversations, let me get back to Mr. Francis Chisirinya. Looking into the national budget, as we're summing up, briefly, what are the loopholes within the budget that need to be at least looked at as we head into the next financial year? What are your considerations per se in regards to this? And of course, just quickly, when you look through.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. I think one area that is we think could have done better is in the area of financing the budget. If you look at it, the domestic revenue or money that will come from taxes is about 52%.
29 trillion?
Yeah, to fund this particular
That is if the Ugandans actually pay the taxes. 29
trillion out of 52 trillion. So the rest of the money, we are actually going to borrow it. Whatever form of borrowing you can call it, refinancing and stuff like that. Now, I think that's where the challenge is. And the discussion like the one that Dr. Chisembo is bringing on the table is important. Other than borrowing, are there other mechanisms that we can use to finance national projects, like the PPP frameworks, the private-public frameworks? Are they an option that can actually help us to not to borrow everything? Our worry is, as the private sector, that government is going to borrow. As already said, they're going to borrow domestically. Yes, they are reducing it, but they are going to borrow from there. So what does that mean? It means that where we've been going to borrow is where the government is going to go to borrow.
Once again.
So meaning that competition, we really are not going to get the kind of money we want. If we get it, it's not going to be at the interest rates that we are thinking about. So that is it. The second thing where we think that should have worked even better, in terms of better, is government has taken so much goods from the private sector on credit without paying. So there are all these what we call domestic areas. The figure, some say it is in trillions, 7 trillion, others 4 trillion, whatever the figure is. But if you look at the allocation that has been made in the budget for areas, it's about 200 billion. Now 200 billion on 4 billion, all 7 billion is really very little. So really think that the allocations for domestic areas should have been more. But also we would like to request that the first check, the first list that government makes, let it pay up all of those areas that are there, the 200. Let them come, let the money come, pay the suppliers so that they can continue supplying. It is really pathetic for us to get stories of private sector companies that have really sweated to build their companies, but they are now failing. They are being auctioned by banks because they supplied and the government didn't pay or has not paid in time. So the banks are saying, my friend, this man has got to get back to the savers. So we are saying it's not really a good thing.
Okay.
That is something that should really be
Lastly,
looked at. The other area which we think did not go very well is introducing taxes on water. We've had a history as a country of waterborne diseases, and from the information we've been receiving, that the waterborne we're starting to reduce, and that is because of access to clean water. Now, when we introduce taxes, the duty, 10% duty on water, we are seeing a situation that may arise where water will or might become expensive for the consumers to partake, and then they go back to using unsafe water. We think that was not really very good. But allow me just 2 seconds or 3 seconds to talk about some of the opportunities that the private sector, an ordinary business person, should actually be looking out to take advantage of the budget. One of them, ladies and gentlemen, government has allocated so much money in PDM, Public Policy Development Model.
yes.
That money is going to be invested in productive work. People who are going to agriculture, please, colleagues, business people, wherever you are, provide these services in the rural communities and get that money. That is an opportunity for you. All these investments in infrastructure we are seeing coming, these are opportunities for you. All this money that is happening, the Small Business Recovery Fund, in a Mioga, all this money is available for you. Prepare yourself and access that money. It will be important. The minister also talked about introducing a mobile money-based investment a platform for treasury bills. Treasury bills have very good interest rates.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, if you have some money, also, please, on your phone, when the thing comes, please actually participate. Then, lastly,
yes,
the government listened to the cries of farmers and the importers of premixes for feeds, animal feeds like chicken and stuff like that, and the government has now reduced the duties. So we expect that these feeds are now going to be available. So people who had abandoned chicken rearing because the cost of feed is too much, I think this is the time to recalibrate and go back to doing business, because starting 1st of July, the imports are not going to have duty on them.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis Chisirinya. Dr. Clark Chisembo, in a minute, your considerations.
In a minute, I would say that alternative financing is very much there. Government, the private sector should seek guidance of companies like DALI.
Okay.
They can always get our contacts from you, or private sector foundation has the contact to see what are the alternative financing mechanisms. There are high net worth individuals who ask me, Dr. Clark, where do I put my $1 trillion?
Okay.
And I'm like, $1 trillion? Let's try to work the numbers. So the high net worth individuals, some are Ugandans investing abroad, right?
Yes.
The other aspect is strengthen public-private partnerships such that we all benefit. The private sector benefits, the public sector benefits, but each monitors the other.
Okay.
But it's not going to work with what they call a consolidated fund. It's going to only work under a program budgeting.
Okay.
And finally, I would like to say that that as much as there's this PDM,
Yes.
there is a program on Emyoga, there is need to educate, sensitize, and create awareness amongst the masses. Financial literacy, digital literacy, but it should not stop there. They should talk about issues around technology. They should bring in all types of sensitizing people that the world is governed by forces of demand and supply, and that is the bottom line, nothing else. Any government that is going to stand out is going to have to follow those rules, market forces.
Okay.
That's the benchmark.
Well, many thanks for your time, gentlemen. And of course, to our viewers, I've been having two gentlemen here in the studio for the discussion. Mr. Francis Chisirinya, who is the Chief Membership Officer, Private Sector Foundation. Many thanks for joining us. And also Dr. Clark Chisembo from DALI Group International, and is also a financial economist who has as well been here to give us more details. And of course, throughout the budget planning, he has also been a key person behind that, so you get to realize why we had the two people in here looking at Uganda's economy and further analyzing the budget priorities for the next financial year 2023-2024. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko, and you've been watching The Point till Wednesday, where more conversations rotating around economic policies will be, and that time around will be with Anthony Sebali. But now, coming up at exactly 9 p.m. will be Business Today with Ronan Ahawe, so stick around here on Smart 24 Television. Good evening.